Hi there, and welcome back to the CKM Red Rugby League channel. Today, I have a very special guest joining me. He is a Fijian international as well as a former Super League star, now playing his trade back in the NRL, taking on an exciting new opportunity. Brayden, how are you doing, mate?
Good, thanks, man. Thanks heaps for having me on.
No, anytime, mate. It's been I've been really looking forward to this since we set it up, and I've been going over some of the profile that you've set up, and really interesting to look at the path that you're taking away from the field. If you just want to tell people a little bit about that and what you're hoping to achieve there.
Yeah, so it's all really new to me. It's an idea I've been sitting on. I was a bit nervous to sort of put it out there, but I was just thinking, if not now, then when? I'll probably be doing the same thing. Too nervous to, but I'll call it journey mentorship. I'm basically trying to use my experiences to try and help the next crop of youngsters through with a football career. If you've read my story, it's been had its fair share of ups and downs, but through it all, I've learned a lot about the game first of all, then a lot about myself and certain things that I could have done better along the way. So I just want to use that experience to try and help the next crop of boys and girls coming through, I guess.
Yeah, and in your journey, you mentioned the fact that you never actually started out as a rugby player or even a rugby league player. It was soccer your first interest, wasn't it? And eventually
Yeah,
you made the move.
yeah, it was just sports in general. Anything that my mates did, I was gonna have a red hot crack at, but it just so happened that rugby league was the sport in my town, and that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah, and who was it that you came through with in the junior ranks? You were.
Um, so I've started with my first rep side was Central Coast Storm, and they were a feeder club to Melbourne Storm at the time. So I did the under 16s, which was called Harold Matts in Australia, under 18s SG Ball, and then I got picked up to go to Melbourne for 3 years as a 16-year-old. So that was really exciting, but again, testing times, moving away from your family that young.
Yeah, and one of the things that you talked about as well is how grueling the pre-season was, and that you've never done a pre-season that intense to this day.
Yeah, no, that was a massive shock to the body. Going in there as a 16-year-old, back then, Melbourne Storm was known as having the hardest training regime. And that was well known across the board. I think now it's all sort of evened out. Everyone's trying to find that way to get that edge before the season starts. But yeah, back then it was a definite eye opener. But it sort of set me up for the rest of my career in terms of training wise. That everywhere I've been, I sort of know I can get through it, and set that platform, a good platform for me to grow off.
Yeah, as you mentioned, 16 years old, moving away from your family, taking that move up to Melbourne as well. That's got to be really testing, not just for yourself, but for your family too. I mean, how did everybody else cope with you leaving at such a young age?
Yeah, it was definitely hard. I'm a massive family man as it is, but at the time it was sort of a good transition, good time for me to, uh, I think, get away from it. I was at that age where all my mates were starting to party and stuff, and I just started to get into it. So it was a good time for me to go away and put my head towards something positive and go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and one of the big things that you allude to in your story as well, and it was the first real setback that you suffered was that ACL. You said that you made a break, and you went to step, and then all of a sudden pop.
Yeah. My knee just went from under me. That was my first real big injury, and that probably led to the spiraling sort of effect of how I would deal with negative things, or turn into alcohol and that sort of stuff. But I'd always at that age been a bit of a party boy, like being known as the guy that liked partying. But in terms of how I would react to setbacks and that sort of started off a bad pattern, I guess, that I probably hadn't dealt with until probably a year ago now. So it's like I said, it's all about learning from your mistakes. It might have taken me a bit longer than I would have liked, but uh, I'm in that a good spot now, and that's why I want to start this business to try and help people from making that mistake, I guess, and and learning before it gets to that point where it's too late.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I do really like. You've been incredibly candid about it all the way through. It's not until you see it a lot with players who will talk more about their stories after they've finished their career because they don't want that speculation and those prying thoughts of people coming in and saying, is it a relapse? Is it this or is it that? Whereas you've said these are my struggles. This is what I've gone through, and I want to use my story to help others. And I think that's really good. That's going to be really helpful for a lot of young players who suffer similar setbacks because ACLs are becoming more common now.
Yeah, well, I think that just makes what I'm trying to do a bit more powerful. Is that I'm still in the game. I'm still fairly young, and I'm still on my journey in football as well. Like, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm headed in the right direction. And I think if people can sort of relate to that and how they're feeling and where they want to go, and I think that would be a lot better for them, or just being with the times a bit more.
Yeah. And as I said, ACL is becoming more common. So Josh Hodgson go down this week as the latest player. I think I saw a stat earlier this week that said there's been as many ACLs this season as there was throughout the entire course of 2019. I mean, it's becoming too common, unfortunately, for players to suffer those high-end injuries at this point.
Yeah, it's a weird one, man. Like, there's been a lot of talk about the 6 again rule and all that sort of stuff. People trying to blame the turf about these sort of injuries, but there's a lot more load on our bodies with the new rule. I don't know the science behind it, but I'm sure that extra load would have something to do with all these boys' bodies starting to break down. Like myself, I'm out injured at the moment. While I'm no doctor or physiotherapist, but you get the feeling with it all happening a bit too regularly at the moment it's got something to do with that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's an out of contact injury, which is a real problem. You see players, as you mentioned with yours, it was a step. Sam Verrills earlier was a step as well. It just seems to be that as players are asked to push their bodies a little bit more, it's becoming almost too frequent at this point. So it's a story that's going to be a lot of lineage is going to be drawn between the two things.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a couple of my mates about it, actually. Like, you never used to hear of people doing their ACL as much as they did 10 years ago. But I guess it's all part of the sport, and as we're trying to create a stronger brand in rugby league, these things are just things that we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one. You never want to see a player go down, and the support that you're going to be offering players through this as well. I mean, what's kind of the age groups that you're looking to work with? Is it open to all? Or?
I mean, for now, it's open to all. Like, I'd probably prefer to be working with around 15 and up, just because, with my experience with the whole drinking thing, I think that's the age where I started to go down that path and start thinking about rugby league as a career. But it's all sort of new to me at the moment. If a young fella comes up to me and asks for some help, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, the drinking, you've alluded to that heavily in your story too. When was the first time you really recognised that you were starting to spiral and had hit a bit of a self-destruct point?
Look, I've always sort of been the party guy, and when I'm out and about, it's all fun and games. It was more when negative things would happen where I started noticing things, and people had tried to tell me all along my career, whether that was at Melbourne, each team, any problem I've ever had, it's always had something to do with alcohol. I've only just addressed it probably a year ago. I've just had a year off alcohol, and I just got to the point where it was starting to affect my family. And it was at that point, sometimes you need that kick in the butt to really make some solid changes. But I did it, and I'm thankful that that it's happened. I'm not happy that I put my family through that to begin with, but I made the changes, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah. And another thing that you address in your story as well is the aspect of media and the impact that that had on yourself. You said that you'd made a throwaway comment of you'd not yet made your first NRL win, and all of a sudden the NRL tabloids just seem to run with that.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, to anyone else hearing it outside, it probably doesn't seem like a big thing, but I'm the guy that cares what people think, and I probably back then I was on social media too much, and I'd read all the things that people were writing about me, and I'm not gonna lie, it like got to me massively, and that's how I dealt with it again with alcohol, and I'd try to play it off like I'm sweet, get drunk, get plastered, and act like nothing was going on, and just that sort of lifestyle as a professional athlete, it doesn't go together. Um, if some people might be able to say that they can do it, but I wasn't one of them. Like, and I don't know many that can live a life like that and expect themselves to be ready to play the next week at a level that is the NRL or the Super League. To be fair, in the Super League, I'd started enjoying my footy a lot more as well, and I think as a result of that, I was playing better. So confidence all works with it as well, but with the NRL, I just had my headspace in such a negative place that I was never going to get the best out of myself. And going to the Super League sort of helped with that.
Yeah. And you see it a lot more now as social media becomes more prominent, and especially with things like Twitter, where people have easy access to players. It's not easy, and I think it was Gareth Ellis, who's now at Hull, he was a former West Tiger, said that social media has become too easy for people to access players, and that people have got away for too long for saying what they want and not getting punched for it, which, to be fair, I think is very accurate.
Yeah, it's accurate. It's all true, but at the end of the day, is any of that going to change? I don't think so. So it's about finding ways that to deal with it better, and that's why I'm trying to start this thing up, the mentoring program as well, because back when I was starting off my career, I probably didn't feel comfortable enough to talk to anyone about it, and that's why I chose other routes to go down. That's why I want to try to be that guy that's been there, is still doing it, but without any judgment, you can come and talk to me about it, and we can figure out ways to go about it from there. But yeah, like I said, this business sort of stuff, it's all new to me. I've got to find ways to market it to the people that I want to. Like I said, I want to deal with probably 15 and up, but I know it's a learning process, and I'm just doing it on the go. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, everyone starts somewhere. It's like you said, it's taken a lot to muster the courage to get it up off the ground and get it out there in the people's eye. And it's great that you are doing it, because you won't be the only player that's gone through this. I mean, you saw only a few weeks ago Latrell Mitchell in the sheds having a moment, and immediately the media were all over him, questioning what was going on. I mean, that's a hard watch. That's a really hard watch.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder where they get off, but like I said before, like it's never going to change. Sometimes negativity sells, So yeah, like as a player, all you can do is encourage those that are hurting around you, and try and keep them up. But you just hope that he's got the people around there, and he's looking for that support. But yeah, it's crap by the media, 100%.
Yeah, and you got to wonder where the line will eventually be drawn, because I don't think, with the amount of access that the media has to players and the amount that they are scrutinised these days, I don't think it's long before you see a player do something incredibly drastic at the hands of the media, and nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, definitely not. As players, we understand what comes with being a professional athlete, but there's got to be lines drawn, like you said, and hopefully that gets worked on over the next couple of years. If it does, who knows? But we can only hope, I guess.
Yeah. So let's talk about your move to France. You said that it sort of helped you enjoy your football again. I mean, there's a lot of current Super League players that have come across from NRL that have drawn similar similarities. I mean, Jackson Hastings was another one, came across a reinvented character. What does a Super League move do for you?
Um, it was just refreshing. I sort of went there. Before I went there, sorry, the coach told me like I was going to be given. I was training hard and I was working for it. I was going to be the starting center, and I didn't really have that confidence put in me at any teams over here. Rightfully so. I was a young dude coming through, but having that confidence and a coach that believed in me was definitely a big turning point for me. You know, you get that feeling of wanting to repay the coach or repay the team for having that confidence. And while our seasons, my first season there as a team wasn't very good, individually I had that feeling like I can do this. And yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was just refreshing to have that feeling, and it started making me get that love back for the game. And it's something that's sort of grown on each year as I've gained that confidence or added to that confidence, which is really good.
Yeah, and you know, you were having a great time out there. You know, it showed on the field as well when you were at Catalans. You know, tearing up on the edges. Great to watch, and you know, glad that was a positive part of your career, because I know that a lot of people look at the Super League as a backward step. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's like you said, it's a refresher. It's something that helps and gets you back to where you need to be.
Yeah, well, I get that question when I came back a lot about the difference in uh, quality. But while there's probably, you know, your best team to the worst team is a fair difference. Actually, even in the NRL, it's probably a bit similar now with these new rule changes. You've seen the blowouts and the scores. It's just a different brand of footy. Super League's a lot more attack focused, and that's the main thing for me. The contact's all the same. The contact skill levels still high, but yeah, they're just a bit more focused on attack, and that's my main point when anyone asks me about that.
Yeah. So then you've finished up in France. I think you did what, 3-4 seasons out there, was it?
I did 3 seasons. Yeah, I was meant
Three.
to be there this year, but I obviously broke contract to chase my dream over here at the Dragons.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately suffered a bit of a setback at the beginning of the season with a calf injury. Hoping to see you back out there soon. But how's life back over in Oz with the Dragons?
Oh, it's really good, man. It's just good. My wife was pregnant. That was a big part of me moving home as well. My wife was pregnant. We've had another baby girl, so that was probably the main one. And then with footy, it's just I was testing at the start with the pre-season. I'm not going to lie. You sort of question if you've made the right choice when you when up at 4:30 in the morning for a 6 o'clock start, leaving at 5 p.m. And the preseason goes for so much longer over here, for another 6 weeks over here compared to Super League. They're sort of up until Christmas, and then it's into game prep because they start their season so early. But at the end of the day, this is what I've always wanted to do. I wanted to test myself in the NRL again, and I'm just super grateful that Dragons gave me that choice to come back. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's what you're doing is going to help a lot of players too. You know, they're going to look at your story, draw those comparisons, and it's going to help out, especially with the fact that you've got a profile as a current NRL player. As I mentioned before, a lot of players leave it to the end of their careers to really do their tell-alls, but you know, you're getting it out in the open now. I think that's going to help a lot of people, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, I hope so, man. Like looking back on my career, I think there's a lot I can give back to anyone that wants some help. You know, whether it's football related or off the field. There's been a fair few ups and downs in with my career, and you know, the main thing for me is just trying to give back.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you know, you're still a young man. You've still got time as well, so you've got plenty more to give, not just at club level, but with the new mentorship program as well. We're going to make sure that there's links to that down in the descriptions, in the comments as well. We're going to be tagging all that in. Make sure you go and check that out, because it is a great cause, and it's great to see. You see a lot of players that are setting up side businesses away from rugby league. A lot of players have got their own clothing lines and things like that, whereas you're going through the more support route, which is fantastic, very amicable, completely selfless, and got nothing but respect for what you're doing, mate.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, I've sort of seen there's a lot of people trying new things. I just didn't see anything in from what I've done a bit of research on in this sort of space, and in mentoring, and I just seen a bit of an opportunity there to try and tap into that while I'm playing. It's not at any cost to me at the moment, and I'm not asking for anything for it at the moment until I feel like I've got a product that's worth asking for a bit of money. But until then, we'll just see how it goes, and I'll keep on learning about the business side of things and trying to get it to the right people.
Yeah. No, so as we mentioned, everything's going to be linked out there. Only left to thank you for joining us, Brayden. Really appreciated you taking your time out of your busy schedule to talk about this. Look forward to seeing everything that you've got to come.
Yeah, thanks heaps, brother. Thanks for having me on. It means a lot.
Thanks a lot, mate. Right. Yep, check it all out. It's all going to be linked up. And thanks for watching.